Good day, good morning, good evening. It is me, it's your boy, Marbly. Um, Today I'm bringing you some Death Knight changes. Hooray! They're really good changes. I'm a big fan of them. We have Deathbringer buffs. We have Rider nerfs. We have Unholy buffs. We have Frostbane nerfs. Let's get into them right now, okay? We're going to talk about them. We're going to see how this affects. Actually, this does shake things up a little bit. I definitely feel like Deathbringer had a bit of a niche in some bosses, some raid encounters, and it most certainly does now. Anyway, back to the video. Deathbringer Frost, Exterminate damage has been increased. That is really nuts because Exterminate was doing good damage, and now it's doing 30% more. You get like 5 Exterminates in your burst window, which is crazy. Every single pillar. No, sorry, not every single pillar. Every single breath, you get 5 Exterminates, which is nuts. And now they all do a third more. Reaper's Mark damage increased by 25%. That is also pretty nutty. You would think that with these two changes, it's really important for you to line up Bone Grinder. It is kind of still, but Bone Grinder kind of lines itself up. As long as you're not in a Bone Grinder window, if you have like 1 or 2 stacks outside of it, Reaper's Mark will just give you 3 as soon as you apply it. So you can just need to consume 1 more in the machine, and then boom, you have your Bone Grinder buff, and now everything is buffed. Anyway, moving on. Deathly Blows now increases the damage of Froststrike by 15%, was 5. So that's also a buff to Frostbane. Deathly Blows is a new talent. Swift and Painful now grants 8% increased strength when no enemies are struck by Soul Rupture. This is interesting because it's basically buffing our single target burst. We already do have quite good single target burst, I think. I was able to get like 150k on the bird boss in Windrunner without Lust with a potion. But there's still quite a decent amount of single target damage, like single target burst. So this is an interesting change. I don't know where else they could probably buff our single target, because they are going to buff our single target with this change, Obliterate damage increased by 15%. But I don't necessarily think it was our burst that needed it. Anyway, next, Ride of the Apocalypse. Now this goes for both specs. Auto attack damage of all the horsemen reduced by 50%. For Frost, I didn't feel like this was much of an issue, but for Unholy, I get it. Like the horseman damage in Rider did kind of overpower everything. However, San'layn is the top pick anyway. So what? They're kind of beating a dead horse. Get it? Horseman. Anyway, moving on. Hungering Thirst now increases the damage of diseases by 5%, and it now also affects Necrotic Core. That's pretty good. I like that change. Yeah, that's quite a necessary change, I think. It's just an overall buff, but I don't know if that cancels out this. Who knows? Frost Rider exclusive. Beast of Souls now increases the damage of runic power abilities by 10% instead of 20% when there's 2 or more horsemen. This just means there's less emphasis on you really needing to get that Frostbane proc in your burst windows in order to do any damage. Because that is really fucking annoying when that happens, when you don't get any procs at all, and it is just RNG. When you go from 1 target, 2 target, you barely get any, and as soon as you get to 3 targets, you've got fucking as many Frostbane procs as you could ever need. So, fine. Next, Unholy. So Unholy Rider, White Mane's been buffed, Trollbane's been buffed, Undeath damage been buffed. So I guess this will probably offset this. So net neutral type. But that's interesting. All of these things have been increased so much. So now instead of the horseman just doing random passive damage, it's the things that the horsemen do that you can interact with that do more damage. I think that is good gameplay. I do enjoy that. I do think that's a good change. Now next, we have San'layn. San'layn for Unholy, Inevitable, now increases the damage of diseases up to 30% instead of 20%. Alright, yeah, nice, fine. Not exactly gameplay changing, but it's decent. It does make Pestilence quite a bit better. Infliction of Sorrow now causes Vampiric Strike to extend the duration by 3 seconds instead of 2, which further increases how good Pestilence is as a button, because Pestilence can do more damage if there's more time on the dot, and the Inevitable is making the dots do 10% more damage anyway, so now Pestilence just gets a big buff. With the Mages of the Dead doing good, and albeit good, like 6 to 7 out of 10 damage for AoE when used back into the Magi, Pestilence was just a bit behind. Now I think Pestilence is quite a bit ahead. Next, now we've got the last little bits here, last little dregs of these changes. Frost. Now Frost has got an overall Obliterate damage increase by 15%. This is good. This is our single target. Brilliant. I think our single target was lacking, so happy change. But then they did reduce our Froststrike damage and our Frostbane damage by 10%. I think this is just trying to shift the emphasis away from Frostbane being so necessary. and you're just doing no damage if you don't get a proc. Good. They listen to the community. That is a good change, in my opinion. And then the last one, Unholy's damage, just overall has been increased by 8%. I didn't necessarily think Unholy was doing that bad damage, that it needed like massive changes. I thought it actually was alright from my testing. I was doing okay. So to receive these buffs, I'm happy, man. I'm definitely happy. Like, you're definitely going to be doing a lot better damage, at least to the magnitude of 8%. But the one thing that I do think is the most interesting part is if this stays the way that it is, you are most certainly going to be playing Deathbringer Frost in Raid. I cannot see you playing Rider in Raid at all. Like, the Reaper's Mark and Exterminate damage is so big every 45 seconds, and there are a lot of things in the Raid that happen every 45 seconds, or big cleave like every 1.5 minutes. Every 1.5 minute cleave, Rider and Deathbringer are kind of on par, but it's the fact that you get these extra 45-second bursts with Deathbringer that's so much stronger than Rider's ones that make Deathbringer so good in the Raid, in my opinion. However, I do think, well, I don't know, single target wise, has this pushed it above Unholy? Possibly. I do think that there's some good single target to be had with Frost. It's such like a neck and neck game on what's better, because both are so balanced at the moment, which is good for once. For once, both specs are balanced. You can play either and you'll be alright. However, I do think Deathbringer Frost will edge in the Raid. As for Mythic Plus, same goes. I think Deathbringer will be a bit better depending on how well your group sort of pull around cooldowns. But in low keys, Deathbringer will eat up. In higher keys, you're probably then going to switch to maybe Rider, or to be honest, maybe just even Unholy San'layn, with the fact that Unholy can ramp, because Unholy does not do well in these lower keys when they can't ramp, which sucks. But anyway, I've been keeping you guys for 7 whole minutes now, and that's not fair. I need to let you all go because you've got lots of better things to do than be watching my videos talking about fucking DK. So, without further ado, I will see you later. Make sure to join my Discord if you want to talk about DK shit. If you're interested in coaching or my UI, then you can also talk to me through my Discord there and get that organised. However, if you like the video, subscribe if you want to keep up to date with more Death Knight news, and I'll see you later. Bye.